Dilks versus, looks like colorless Eldrazi on the left. Now, Travis Gibson, actually someone who actually used to work behind the scenes here at Star City Games on the SCG Tour, he piloted the Eldrazi deck to, I believe, a top 4 finish at his regionals, but it might have just been a top 8. And we actually played it on Versus Live this week.
Yeah, pretty powerful strategy. A Serum Powder deck. You see that stack of cards there? That's what that is.
Yeah, it looks like Lance actually pretty low on cards here. Perhaps just mulliganed into Oblivion. Yeah, he's on like 3 cards. Holy moly.
Hope that there's some Eternal Scourges in exile. There's one.
Yeah, and that's one of the beautiful parts about this Eldrazi, colorless Eldrazi deck. Even if you mulligan to Oblivion, if you hit a Serum Powder or 2, you're able to exile some of those Scourges, and then those act as virtual cards in your hand. But Lance here, pretty low on resources. This one could be over before it even begins.
So his start was Eldrazi Temple into Eldrazi Mimic. Turn 2, he has Zhalfirin Void. That's the new colorless land from Dominaria. You see some play picking up specifically in colorless Eldrazi, so that's Scryed 1. Got to cast an Eternal Scourge from exile from that Serum Powder. Made the Mimic into a 3, Dilks to 17, but Dilks started on Forest Sakura Tribe Scout, and then now has Celestia Sanctuary, so he's set up to make a lot of mana real quick.
Yeah, and it's one of the better starts from Dilks. He's only got a handful of hugely impactful 1-mana cards. He's got 4 Amulet of Vigor and 3, he probably has 4 Sakura Tribe Scout. I'm thinking of earlier we watched Dom Harvey play, and he only had 3. Let me double check here.
Dismember for 9s to 16, takes out this Tribe Scout. Dilks will sneak in a Forest real quick, but 5 points come across. Dilks to 12, and a Blink Moth Nexus as a follow-up.
Yeah, it's not often you see a colorless Eldrazi deck completely empty-handed on turn 3, but the way this kind of panned out, Lance 9's mulligan to what looked like 3 or 4 cards and spewed a bunch of stuff onto the battlefield early, including one of those Eternal Scourges from exile thanks to Serum Powder.
There is a fail rate of the Amulet deck where this might be enough, but you really need Dilks to do nothing for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, if Dilk doesn't have a ramp effect this turn, there's a chance. Yeah, he's moving. Oh, no, he's casting. Excuse me. So he's going to cast Summoner's Pact. He might go get... Oh, sure.
It finds a Souza. So he floated a green mana off of Forest, played Celestia Sanctuary, picked that up. Yep. Summoner's Pact for a Souza, lost but seeking.
Now, he is going to be bottlenecked into paying for that Summoner's Pact next turn, but if the Azusa survives, there's a good chance that he just has the ability to pay and then do something explosive in addition.
Ghost Quarter is the second land, 1 to go for Dilks. He'll play that basic Forest again.
It's a pretty impressive showing, I think, from the colorless Eldrazi deck on a mulligan to, I'm guessing, 3. Just the turn 1 Mimic, turn 2 Eternal Scourge, turn 3 Dismember, attack, and also play a creature land. It's pretty impressive.
Here's a Matter Reshaper that'll make the Mimic into a 3/2. Attack with the Reshaper and the Scourge. That'll be for 6 if it connects.
Yeah, and this attack is half of Dilk's life total, and potentially presents lethal next turn even, or just forces a chump block from the Azusa at some point.
And the power of this draw, really brought to you by Eldrazi Temple. As you remember, the Eldrazi deck was the reason that Eye of Ugin is banned in Modern. There was some real dark times for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it is rare throughout Magic's history where a deck becomes so oppressive that it gets an entire season named after it. Back in the early 2000s, we had a Necro Winter where there was an entire PTQ Pro Tour Grand Prix season where the card Necropotence was essentially what you would play against every single round because Dark Ritual and Necropotence was just unbelievably good, and there was not anything really to check it. Eventually, though, Necropotence was banned and things changed, but moving to the year of our Lord 2016 or whenever it was, Eldrazi, was it Eldrazi Summer? Or maybe it was Eldrazi Winter and Necro Summer, and I'm confusing the two. But
I remember Combo Winter was what it was called back in the day,
Winter?
And it was Eldrazi Winter.
I'm pretty sure one of them was Summer.
I think the Combo Winter is a different era.
Sure.
There was more combo decks. There's been some pretty busted decks in Magic history. You learn a lot kind of being the first in the game of, card game strategy like this.
Now, looks like Lance drew another Zhalfirin Void, but is just potentially presenting lethal, and unless there's a chump block here from the Sakura Tribe Scout, I believe that Dilks is going to take too much damage. Decides to trade with the, I mean, that's 6 damage. Oh, wait, no, sorry, he chump blocked last turn with the Azusa, so he's still sitting pretty at 9 life. A trade here with Sakura Tribe Scout on the Eldrazi Mimic. Going to take 6 all the way down to 3 life, and Dilks has to untap and have a big turn here. Needs Primeval Titan into gaining 2 life off of Kabira Crossroads, and maybe something else even after that.
Well, there's the Titan. Yeah, untap with 6 mana here, so no land drop made just yet. Yeah, that Growth Chamber last turn.
I mean, even something like Colony Garden is quite good here because it produces a blocker. So I could see a Kabira Crossroads, Colony Garden, just maximum protection, and that is what you see here from Matt Dilks.
Yep, goes up to 5, makes a plant token. Minimally, we know that still has that basic forest in hand. Could maybe have a Sakura Tribe Scout to add as another chump blocker.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 blockers now. He has the Primeval Titan, which can eat the Eternal Scourge, and then the plant token, which can chump block the Matter Reshaper. So we actually have a new plant token, our own Jeremy Knoll from Commander Versus, as well as one of the big guys behind the scenes on our media department. We're going to be grabbing that for Dilks in just a second. There it is.
Gemstone Mayan played over the forest here for Dilks. He's going to pass turn. Defense is up pretty reasonably.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good spot for Dilks, but, I mean, again, this is on the Colorless Eldrazi deck mulliganing to 3. Right. So, I mean, this says a lot to me more about the Eldrazi deck's strengths rather than anything else.
Yeah, that much is true. Draw was another Matter Reshaper for 9s. No good attacks, though. Just cast that and pass.
Yeah, and here, if Dilks has another Titan or some big follow-up, it looks like, wow, I'm pretty sure he has Engine Explosives. That for 3 is going to buy him a lot of time here by knocking out all those Matter Reshapers, but potentially, you know, gives Lance some much-needed fuel for potentially trying to close this game out.
And we'll see if Dilks does go for that Explosives. He's going to start with the Amulet of Vigor, though. That makes this turn a lot scarier.
Might actually just go for the kill.
Yeah.
He can Explosives for X equals 2 and then do the whole shebang where he goes and gets a double strike land, and I guess it's not quite it. He can't get both of those lands and activate both of them right now and use the Explosives.
It's weird to be looking at 8 mana, 9 now with that forest and say it's not enough in the modern format.
Well, you know. We got a Transmute here of Talaria West, probably going to go get Summoner's Pact, and that's going to go get Primeval Titan. And then Primeval Titan is going to go get the whole shebang, the Boros Garrison, and the
Slayer
Stronghold, which is going to give the fresh one haste.
And that is what you're seeing here.
Yeah, and then both of them get to attack, too. So now we can go get multiple bounce lands, Vesuva, to copy the Boros Garrison, as well as some home to give double strike. And with all of these creatures trampling, this should be enough to close the game.
Yeah, 2 Titans come across. Here's 2 Titan triggers.
I mean, it's currently 14 with no blocks without activating Sunhome. Sunhome adds another 8 to the pile, which is 22. It looks like 7 toughness on the other side. It might be 1 short with a triple chump, but he's also triple chump blocking, so, you know. And that was my quick maths.
That's the best kind of math.
You know.
I like everything if it's done quickly.
Sure.
It's just a good category to be in.
Look, you don't got to tell me. I'm the kind of guy who would rather watch all Magic at 4X, so.
You listen to podcasts at like 1.5?
I don't listen to podcasts.
Well, that's even faster.
I don't got time for that.
There's Sunhome, Celestial Sanctuary, Gemstone Mine, and a Vesuva are found here.
And the 2 extra life points from Vesuva copying Kabira Crossroads. It's going to put Dilks up to 7, and it's going to basically lock him out of the game here. So Lance Nines picks him up. A valiant effort on that mulligan. Down a game, though. 2 left to play. Let's see if this sideboard can dig him out and if he can keep a hand that has more than 3 cards.
As you might suspect, you don't get a lot of options when you sideboard with a colorless strategy. So for Lance Nines, we're looking at 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Relic Regeneratus, 3 Spatial Contortion, 3 Ratchet Bomb, a Warping Whale, and a Pithing Needle.
maybe the Pithing Needle. I just wanted to say nope on every one of them.
Yeah, you had such good momentum.
Oh, yeah.
Can't break that up.
There's a small chance Warping Well comes in because it can counter an Ancient Stirrings or maybe a sideboard card, but I doubt it. Ratchet Bomb could come in if he's dangerously afraid of Amulet of Vigor, because it also kind of attacks Sakura Tribe Scout, but the Tribe Scout still gets to play the land, so it's not even very good there. Spatial Contortion, I think, is the only real option for Lance, and he might bring that in just as a way to contain those rampy creatures like Azusa and the Sakura Tribe Scout.
For Matthew Dilks, he has 4 Path to Exile on the sideboard, 3 Negate, bunch of one-ofs: Cavern of Souls, Chameleon Colossus, Ramyap, Excavator, Hornet Queen, Tireless Tracker, Consulate Crackdown, Engineered Explosives, and Reclamation Sage.
Yeah, we're going to have to get Consulate Crackdown on the screen because I don't even know what that one does.
Like, exiles all artifacts.
Oh, great.
It's like white, too.
Perfect.
It's an enchantment.
Cool.
From Ether Revolt.
Okay, no wonder.
Doesn't play here, I don't think.
No. All right, so from Dilk's side, I think you need to focus on the creatures. Path to Exile can come in, though he does need to be cognizant of a potential turn 1 Chalice of the Void via Simian Spirit Guide. Now, the 4 copies of Chalice of the Void in Lance's deck on the player could be good at shutting off Amulet as well as Sakura Tribe Scout and Ancient Stirrings, but that does get beaten pretty easily by the up to 3 Engineered Explosives, I believe, that Dilks has access to. Aside from that, we also have Hornet Queen, which I think is a huge brick wall and very strong in the matchup. And then you can maybe bring in the Reclamation Sage and the other explosives just to handle those 3 drops, as well as the Chalice of the Void.
You mentioned that former director here on the tour, Travis Gibson, top beta regionals with colorless Eldrazi. This is something that you touched on in Versus Live?
Oh, absolutely. So every Tuesday and Thursday, Ross Merriam and I do play Versus Live, where we bring you the decks that performed well in the previous week, as well as potentially what we're playing on that weekend. And we like to throw those decks against each other, sometimes Gauntlet style, sometimes just Madness and Mayhem, where we just basically pick decks at random and see what comes out on top. We do that every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We take questions from the audience. We give shout-outs to various subscribers, and we have a bunch of sweet emotes if you do want to subscribe there. It's on this channel, twitch.tv/SCG Tour. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's the same YouTube channel of the video you're watching right now.
A lot of great content on Versus Live. This week, Director Rob stepped in for a couple games.
Yeah, I won 1 game. Ross and I had played 8 games, and I lost all 3 matches. And I only won 1 game, and I was so mad that I just left. I didn't leave. I was still in the room. I decided to become the heckler. And, I let Rob step in because the last deck we played was actually Scapeshift. Red, the Gruul Scapeshift decks have been running around forever. Rob's actually been playing it for, I don't know, the better part of the last 4 or 5 years. And he said, hey, let me give it a shot. I said, you know what? I don't really want to play Magic anymore because Ross is a big jerk. He rubs it in, too, People
That's
call
true.
me salty, but, he eggs me on, right? Also, I'm just kind of playing, but no one ever realizes that, and they just think my pH balance is way off.
Clearly, if you're upset about anything on a broadcast, it means that you're a bad person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's science.
All right, here, let's go down to the match and look over what Lance is doing here, because it looks like he's cracked 1 Serum Powder already, exiled quite a few cards.
That was 6 on the powder, going to 5 now, I believe.
Yeah, but this deck does mulligan quite well, specifically because of the card Serum Powder on top of letting you exile Eternal Scourge. Now, Ross, on Versus Live this week, Ross Merriam and myself, we had a really strange interaction with the card Serum Powder and the new London Mulligan rule. Just in the dark without really reading about the rule or how it interacts with Serum Powder, which there is a specific clause just for Serum Powder.
Makes sense.
I assumed, hey, every time I get to draw 7, if I hit a Serum Powder, I just get to shuffle all 7 back in and then just retry the mulligan. But what actually happens is if you decide to use Serum Powder, you have to completely resolve the mulligan, put some cards on the bottom, then use Serum Powder, and then you have to then you get to decide again if you want a mulligan.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's really strange.
I don't want to mess with any of that.
No, but it does just let you see an astronomical amount of cards. So if your deck is focused on 1 or 2 things, it's quite good.
So we're underway here. Nines kept on 5. Mutavault was the first play. Dilks had Gemstone Mine, Sakura Tribe Scout. That got hit by a Dismember from Nines. Ghost Quarters his second land. Now over for Dilks, second land for him, another Gemstone Mine. He'll use that one to cast an Ancient Stirrings, finds Colony Garden.
Yeah, even though Lance on 5 cards, his deck still has a lot of game. 2-mana lands, creature lands. Obviously, if he's mulliganing to 3 and 5, he's mulliganing pretty aggressively to find good starts, because a good start from this deck is way more important than the overall raw resources that your deck might produce and might not even be able to use.
Here's an Eldrazi Temple Eternal Scourge. So there's a threat on the table now. Dilks is going to play that Colony Garden, make that Jeremy Knoll plant token, and it's back to Nines.
Yeah, now Lance can fire up that Mutavault and attack in for 5 if he has a creature to play. Might want to go ahead and get that one on the battlefield. Try to close the game here before Dilks gets online with those Primeval Titans, because they're so strong.
I want to see some Reality Smashers.
I do too. And with the Eldrazi Temple, might actually see it sooner rather than later. Now, one of the cool things here is that because the colorless Eldrazi deck gets to play a bunch of colorless lands, almost all their lands do something sweet. Ghost Quarter allows you to pop off an opposing land from your opponent. Mutavault gets to attack, Blinkmoth Nexus, etc., etc., etc. There's a ton of these really awesome lands in the deck. Even Zalfir and Void lets you kind of set up your next draw by giving you that free Scribe.
And you see another Ghost Quarter was the land for Nines. He fired up the Mutavault, attacked, got the plant token with the Scourge. 2 came across with the Mutavault. Dilks is at 18. Here's an Asusa for Dilks. Now, the Ghost Quarters, they match up pretty nicely against Boust lands.
They do, but it's still knocking Lance down a land, and you're breaking even on lands because you're just kind of you lose a 2-mana land and gain a 1-mana land while your opponent loses a land. So it's still an even exchange, and if you have a bunch of extra land drops with Azusa, it doesn't actually hurt you that bad.
Yeah, that much makes sense. So you think likely you want to hang out and try to hit some utility lands?
Yeah, something like that. Or, if they play Amulet of Vigor, then you can just pop one of the bounce lands with a trigger on the stack. But the card Azusa represents a lot of free land drops, so he's going to have to be really careful with those Ghost Quarters.
Nines will fire up the Mutavault using the Eldrazi Temple again, and attack for 5. Dilk's not interested in losing the Asusa this time. He'll fall to 13. Another Mutavault for Nines. Got something to cast. A Smuggler's Copter is the follow-up.
Smuggler's Copter is a nice one. I like that card quite a bit. And I'm curious why more of these colorless Eldrazi decks don't play it, because you can't really afford to get flooded. And as far as colorless cards are concerned, it's one of the few that have been banned in Standard in the last few years. So, even though Scrap Heap Scoundrel was always the real culprit. Just kidding. Well, not really.
I mean, the Scrap Heap Scoundrel is very good.
Yeah. Of the Standard Pro Tours that Scrap Heap Scoundrel was legal, I believe it has more copies in top 8s than any other card ever.
I think Owen Turtenwald always referred to the card as Grim Monolith, because that's the kind of top 8 conversion it had.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty insane, honestly.
So he's firing up some Mutavaults. Dilks didn't really do anything on his turn, despite having that Asusa. Just kind of had to pass Nine's way, possibly leaving that Ghost Quarter up. Was disruption, maybe his hand's not just made. Anyway, though, for Nines, he's going to fire up Mutavault, crew that Smuggler's Copter, fire up the other Mutavault, attack with Copter, Scourge, one of the Mutavaults. Loot with the Copter, discards Blinkmoth Nexus, and here's Dismember on the Asusa, 9s to 12.
This is going to prevent a chump block from Dilks and also potentially lock out Azusa from bounce lands and stuff. But if Dilks has a Path to Exile in hand, this isn't a lethal attack. And as you see, Dilks is actually going to Path to Exile on his own creature in response to that Dismember, and it's going to ramp him up to 5 and potentially 6 next turn with untapped land. You know what 6 mana means?
Primeval Titan.
Primeval Titan.
It's a good one.
Sure is. Now, Dilks doesn't have a slew of forests. If I'm not mistaken, there are just 2 forests. Oh, no, there's 4. Never mind, I'm stupid. I was going to say Lance could just use Ghost Quarter aggressively and try to strip mine Dilks off of 6, but with 4 total forests, it's going to be virtually impossible.
Yeah, makes it tough. The attack for 8 does connect. Dilks is at 5, and now we'll go back his way. Does he have a way to deploy Primeval Titan this turn? There's Forest, there's Titan. That's easy.
Yeah, and he loses 2 lands in the process, but he's going to get them right back off of this Primeval Titan. And honestly, that was potentially a huge misstep from Lance, trying to prevent a chump block from the Azusa, but instead just enabled that Path to Exile to find the land. Matthew might have had to go chump block into Path to Exile anyway, and then Lance would still have a card in hand either to use with his Looter Scooter, the Smuggler's Copter, or potentially just shrinking that Primeval Titan when it blocks.
So that Primeval Titan will trigger the first land. Dilks has gotten Kabira Crossroads. That one makes a lot of sense. Life total getting pretty low. Let's see what the second land is.
Now, notably, these two lands enter the battlefield at the same time, so if Vesuva can't copy Kabira Crossroads, he actually has to copy the Colony Garden. They don't see each other. Clone effects are weird like that. But a chump blocker here is actually effectively worth more life than the two from Kabira Crossroads because it can potentially block the Scourge.
Sure. And that is the find. So we'll go up to 7 off of the Crossroads. Gets that plant token from the Vesuva.
I mean, he's not out of the woods yet. You know, the Matthew Dilks can't really do a bunch of damage next turn. The Ghost Quarter protects from the Sun Home. And the Smuggler's Copter flies, so it can't be blocked. With that said, I don't think Lance can actually produce lethal this turn. And that's going to let Dilks attack and do some pretty disgusting stuff over the next few turns. Primeval Titan is just such a powerhouse once it gets on the battlefield.
Nines is going to fire up Mutavault, use that to crew Copter. That's the solitary attacker here. He'll loot. Looks like 2 Simian Spirit Guides is the holdings.
Yeah, and unfortunately he has to discard one, so can't even use one to cast the other. And with that Primeval Titan looming on defense, can't really afford to attack with the Mutavault and the Eternal Scourge either.
So Dilks down to 4 off of that Copter hit.
Lance thinking about going after some lands here with those Ghost Quarters. I'm curious what he decides to do.
Definitely was an argument for hitting the Sun Home while Dilks was tapped out.
Yeah, I agree with that. It doesn't get a lot better than killing the Double Strike land.
There's no red mana for it just yet. So that's a thing.
Sure, that makes sense, I suppose.
You know, those Gemstone Mines, they did destroy themselves. You don't always see that happen. They're usually picked up with bounce lands.
I don't think I've seen it happen in this deck more than once. And we saw it happen twice in a single turn. So.
Yeah.
Dilks here just trying to piece together a win. He seems like he's been struggling against these anemic draws from the Colorless Eldrazi deck. It's possible this is a pretty bad matchup, and Lance just a bit unfortunate in his draws. Not able to apply enough pressure in the first few turns just because he's stunted on overall resources.
Yeah, mulligan to like 3 or 4 into mulligan into 5. Not a good way to go out. Did come into this round at 7-0 though, so yeah. he's locked for day 2. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Colorless Eldrazi deck, when the draws are good, the deck is great. And it has a lot of looks at those good draws because it has the Serum Powder and it can effectively use a mulligan like a Tolarian Winds, looking for that powerful land of Eldrazi Temple. Here's an attack with Primeval Titan. Celestial Sanctuary and a Boros Garrison are found.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do here if I'm Lance, but I think you just got to pop that Sun Home at some point. It just represents so much potential damage with a Primeval Titan. And right now, with Dilks doesn't have access to red, could just do it right now. Could also just hit the Boros Garrison and lock Dilks out of potentially the ability to... Ooh.
Okay, so there's 2 bounce land triggers on the stack. So Nines is going to go ahead and Ghost Quarter both the Colony Garden and the Kabira Crossroads, so Dilks can't pick those up and redeploy them.
I kind of love this. Those 2 bounce lands represent an extra plant and an extra 2 life, thanks to the bounce lands from the Primeval Titan. And if he had something like Azusa, he could just play both of them again in the same turn, producing a second and third blocker, as well as putting himself up to 6 life.
It's not bad. Primeval Titan still attacking.
Yeah, but it's not lethal. And if he can't, I mean, I guess he could just double strike next turn with the Boros Garrison and the Sun Home. So it's tough, but he's got to try to peel something like Reality Smasher right now and hope that Dilks doesn't have anything.
So Titan did connect. Nines down to 6. Follow up for Dilks. He picked up 2 of his forests with those bounce lands. He's going to cast a Sousa and now just replay those forests.
I'm curious to see if Lance can find anything off the top to actually win this game. But Dilks here maybe going to close the door. He's casting a Summoner's Pact. Maybe just going to get like any blocker.
Yeah. Sakura Tribe Scout, something like that. Oh, it's Reclamation Sage. That's a little bit better. Get your Smuggler's Copter.
No joke. That's good. Now, we saw, we thought that the Reclamation Sage might come in as a means to deal with Chalice of the Void, and that's some splash damage there from the Smuggler's Copter getting hit by that Reclamation Sage.
So now, Dilks is at 4, but I don't know if Nines will be able to cross the finish line here.
Now, Dilks deciding to, for his land for the turn, after all that, still hasn't played a land for the turn. Plays a Simic Growth Chamber, returns that Sunhome to protect it from a potential Ghost Quarter next turn, and that Primeval Titan likely slewing it in for lethal next turn.
Ratchet Bomb was the draw for Nines. That does about nothing here.
Yep. So, just a little too much, I think, for Lance to deal with, especially on a Mold 3 and a Mold 5. That should be all she wrote for Dilks. Don't go anywhere, though. After this match, we are going to have a backup time-shifted match. We've been trying to bring y'all a lot more raw Magic footage this year on the SCG Tour to keep you hooked. A lot less commercials. We got to pay the bills, but at the same time, we usually give you another match, sometimes 2x speed, sometimes 3 or 4x speed, but another match nonetheless, especially against a lot of our great players here on the tour.
Yeah, more Magic always a good thing. Also, I like that they're fast. You speed them up. Some quick hits.
Yeah. Now, there's nothing to be done here. Lance has a Spear Guide and a Ratchet Bomb. He can Ratchet Bomb for 0 and pop off the Jeremy Knoll token, but he can't quite activate both Mutavaults, and even if he could, just 2 blockers on the other side of the table. And this Primeval Titan with Double Strike should be more than enough to clean this game up.
Just cast Ratchet Bomb. You see Dilks had the die on top of the library. He's ready to pay for the pack. That's what Nines was hoping wouldn't happen. Matthew Dilks is going to take this down 2-0 over Lance Nines. Dilks